So there are two ways of creating this file. So you can create this file with the help of manual approach, where you can write this, and then if you know your project well, you can do that. You can type everything, or maybe you can take help of the AI assistants to create that markdown file, or you can just say /init. It will scan the entire project and it will give you that. So it will read the project structure, it will read the existing files, find the patterns and convention, and then it will generate this file. And then always edit add what. Yeah, so if something is missing, you can add that manually. So if I can go back to the project and I can add certain details of my own here, right? And maybe we'll do that in the upcoming part. So just to show an example, let's say if you talk about the architecture here, this app is single file vanilla JS file with this. I also want to mention the tech stack. I think I'm not able to see the tech stack. When you're recording and focusing at the same time about this, it's tricky. But if I want to manually specify the tech stack here, I can do that. So I will just paste this here. So tech stack is Fast API, this particular version. Again, randomly I pick this. SQL Alchemy, this version, Python take this version, and goes on. So this is the entire tech stack which I want to add. So this is how you can add the things manually. And maybe you can also add your coding style. I know where I'm seeing the coding style. So let me just paste a coding style which I already have in my machine. So these are the coding style. So Python, snake case for the functions and variables, always use type hints, never put business logic in the routes. I mean, of course, AI is smart now, they will not do it, but you never know. So use the service layer for the business logic, and schemas in the schemas folder, models in the models folder. So these are the things you can mention in the Claude.md file. In fact, if you remember, we can also put rules, always and never, something like this. So you can specify rules. Never modify files in the front end, because front end is fixed, so don't touch that. Maybe because if you are changing something in the back end, it will check, hey, there's something wrong with the front end, let me change that. You will say, don't touch the front end, okay? Just change the things in the back end. Never commit .env files, that's also important. Always run test after changes. And maybe I will just remove this because we are into that learning mode. It will just keep testing every time I run this. So I will just remove that. Always create migration when changing models. Okay, let's put that. And now if you ask the same question with a new session, let's see what it says. Let me close the previous session. And now here, what is this project about? And what coding style it prefers. Let's see. Okay, this is the project, and you can see backend plan and the coding style. So now it is reading the MD file to get this data. Perfect. And now with this, since we have the front end, we can directly create our backend, right? I can just write build a Fast API project or Fast API backend for this particular front end. And since we have the details in the Claude MD file, it will do that. I think I'm not sure if we have specified the endpoints here. If you want, you can do that. Okay, now there's one important point which I want to highlight here. So when it comes to environment files where you specify your API keys, maybe you have some database passwords and you have that in some files. Normally, what you do is let's say if you don't want to commit that to Git, and we always ignore those files, right? So we said .git ignores and you put everything there. What are the files and folders it should skip? But what about Claude? Because the moment you run this file, Claude is going to scan the entire project. And when it scans the entire project, it creates its own memory. That's right. See, the Claude.md is your memory. So what you want to specify to Claude. But Claude itself, since it is working with the project, it will have its own memory. Not exactly tech stack and other stuff, but maybe the commands which you're working with. So those things will be storing somewhere, and we'll talk about the memory as well. It will also scan the .env files. And now that's risky. Two scenarios. One, it will store those things in the memory. And second, it's a cloud model. Basically, we are taking help of the cloud. Data is going up. So how will you ignore those files? So two things you can do. The first thing is never keep those files in your project, okay, where Claude has the access. But even if you put that in that scenario, one of the common thing people uses is something called .claude ignores, something like .git ignores, but that's not the standard way of doing it. The standard way of doing it is with the help of the settings files. Remember, we have the settings files before. So in that file, you can do something like this. So in the permissions, you can have allow, you can also have deny, in which you can mention what are the files it should not read. Right, so that's one thing you have to remember. And now, since we're talking about memory, let's talk about memory. See, Claude.md, as I mentioned before, it is your file, right? It is what you want to specify to the Claude. But there's something called memory. So when I type memory here, and if I say enter, look at this. There are different memories here. One is this, which is Claude.md, which you have created. But apart from your things, there is something called user memory. Again, that is stored in this .claude folder of my machine. So if I go to .claude folder, and when I look at Claude.md, it's empty, so there is no user memory. But let me see what is there. So when I say enter, it's empty. The file is not there. What's wrong? It's not working. Some bugs. Let me just open this session once again. It's time to update VS Code. Okay, let's go back to memory. Oh, maybe I was in the empty file. Oh, let me just try that once again. No, I'm not even able to use the vim commands here. So /memory. So this is the user memory. Then we also have the project memory. And then we got this auto memory folder. Now where this goes to, so when I say enter, it's not opening, but I checked about this bug. There's some bug here, but let me show you where it is. So when I go to projects, and I got different projects here. One of the projects which we are working with now is this. In the memory, we have this data. In fact, in memory, it's empty, but this is where it will store everything. So the more you start working with this, it will store all the data in the memory. But the question arises when you are writing Claude.md, which is for the memory, why Claude Code is using its own memory? And to understand that, let's go here. So basically, there are two types of memories. One is what you are creating, and one what you have in the auto memory. So basically, you can use this to see the data of the memory. But when you create a file which is Claude.md, you write this table project rules, architecture decisions, and team conventions. The auto memory basically stores the commands, discover commands, patterns, notice, and edge cases found. So when you specify don't do this next time, it will store all those things in the memory. But what if you manually want to add something in the auto memory? In that case, you can use this shortcut as hash. So you can say hash and type something. So that will go into the memory. So now when you start a new session, it will load data not just from the Claude.md file, it will also load data from the auto memory. And it's not like it was going to take everything from the auto memory. So let's say we specified the Claude.md file should not be more than 200 lines. In the same way, in the auto memory as well, it will pick up the top 100 lines or top 200 lines. So Claude write this discovered commands and patterns. Okay. So Claude knows the project instantly every session. So Claude will pick up the data from this too. Now, certain aspect, who writes it? Claude.md, you write it. Auto memory, Claude's write it. When it changes, rarely, because once you do that, you don't continue to keep changing it. But auto memory will keep changing based on your interactions. Content, this is what you'll be having in the Claude.md, the MD file, and this is what you'll be having in the auto memory. The commands, edge cases, patterns. Scope, stable foundation, and accumulated experience. And that's why, since it is accumulated, the bigger your project, the more interactions you have, it will be very huge. And that's why it should pick up, or it will pick up the top few lines. So yeah, that's about this particular thing. We have talked about Claude.md, which you create and you store everything there. Then we have talked about the auto memory. We have talked about .claude folder, which you will be having different stuff, and we'll explore different things in that later. And with that, time to move to the next part.